If only they knew. The hub for young business minds.
Welcome back to another episode of the If Only They Knew podcast. Today, I'm joined by social entrepreneurs, Grace Dyke and Kirsty Day. How are you both?
Hi, we're good.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Despite being in lockdown, it's pretty good. It's pretty busy.
Yeah, I know it's a hard time. Yeah, it's a very, very tough time for everyone, but hopefully, you're getting through it and being productive, hopefully.
Crazily productive, actually. I think we were both a bit worried at first, weren't we? That we couldn't go out and meet each other and meet clients and deliver our projects, but it is amazing how quickly you can adapt. And I don't think I'll ever have as many Zooms as I have during this period again in my life.
Something to definitely to take with us. I think we probably will end up doing some more of our meetings via Zoom. It's been really helpful in terms of time saving and how much we can get done for the business. And I've got a couple of kids at home, so it's been useful to be able to think of other ways that we can adapt the business as well.
Yeah, I've been loving it. But if you don't mind, for our audience, just sort of a brief introduction as to who you both are, if you don't mind. Kirsty, if we start off with you.
Okay, so I'm Kirsty, and my background is in journalism. So I started my career quite a long time ago as journalism for the MEN Media Group. So I've always had a passion for wanting to be able to make a difference. I enjoy writing, so that's where it stemmed from for me. And then I moved on to the other side of the fence and started to work for Alzheimer's Society as their regional media and campaigns officer, which is where I got to meet Grace. And together we left there to be able to set up Yellow Jigsaw. So Grace will tell you a bit more about that.
My background's slightly different. So I went to University of Liverpool and did a business studies degree. Absolutely loved it, everything to do with business. Definitely knew that's what I wanted to get into. But whilst I was at uni, I did quite a lot of charity work, and it's a bit of a cliche, but I really wanted to make sure I had a job that was making some sort of difference to people's lives. But in the whole 3 years of doing the degree, not once was the term social enterprise mentioned to me. So I went down the not-for-profit route, which is public sector or charities, ended up at Alzheimer's Society managing projects and campaigns, and sat opposite Kirsty. And we've not looked back since, really.
No, we've pretty much been sat opposite each other for the last 6 years, following on from that.
It was really lucky though. So I just happened to say to Kirsty, you know, I've always really wanted my own business, and so if I don't get that chance, I'll be absolutely gutted. And she's got a little bit more courage than me, so she was like, well, let's just go ahead and do it then, why not? And if it wasn't for that conversation, then we probably would still be at Alzheimer's Society now.
We wouldn't.
We would have left some other way.
It was a great combination of meeting each other, really, like to bring those different sides of our personality together has been something that has always made Yellow Jigsaw work really well for us. So we're both passionate about social enterprise and making a difference, and always having clients where we know that we are doing our job but also doing our good in our job too. So that's massively important to both of us.
Well, why don't we get into it then? If you don't mind telling us a bit more about the business itself, let's get straight into it.
Yeah, so the business that we set up more than 5 years ago now, which is crazy, is called Yellow Jigsaw, and it is that hybrid of being a social enterprise. So if you imagine like a spectrum, and on one end of the spectrum is a charity, on the other end is a business, a social enterprise sort of falls in the middle. So it exists with a mission to really do good in the world. But you have to trade, you have to make money like a business rather than relying on donations like a charity. So when I heard about this term, given my business studies background, it just seemed like the perfect model to be able to deliver this sort of work. So we set up to be able to deliver PR and consultancy services to other not-for-profits. So loads of charities have the best stories to tell, but often they don't have the skills, the time, the capacity to be able to tell them. So that's where me and Kirsty come in. So we've grown the business, there's us two, and then a team of freelancers that work with clients across the Northwest. But whilst we've grown the team, we've been able to deliver other projects that really, well, they make us really passionate, don't they? And we can see us going more in that direction as we go on. which is the beauty of having your own business, that you can take these opportunities and you can run with them. And they use our skills, but in very different ways. So the mission really is to give communication skills to those people that don't have a voice at the moment. So we work in schools with kids in disadvantaged areas, and we deliver a project called Media Cubs, which is a pop-up TV studio and newsroom, where we transform the classroom into the newsroom and kids into mini reporters. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we work with people who are age 50 and over, who are sick of being represented by mainstream media, by the frail, weak hands on the walking stick and this quite negative, stereotypical sign of aging. And we get them to write their own stories and challenge those stereotypes by becoming local reporters. So that's called Talking About My Generation. It's its own news platform in Greater Manchester, a bit like Lad Bible meets Coronation Street for that target audience.
Nice.
So, those are two projects that keep us quite busy alongside the client work, aren't they, Kirsty?
They definitely are, and I think they're just both a great example of how it brings both of our sets of skills together again. It's I feel like I'm home again because it's running two newsrooms, so for two people in society that I love. You know, I love children, I love being around older people, and it's just making sure, like Grace said, that they're better represented in society. And so I'm back in the newsroom, doing what I love, writing stories, teaching other people how to write those stories for themselves. And Grace is back doing what she's really good at as well, managing projects and running it as a business. And it's just bringing all of those skills together, working really well for us.
It sounds like such a great idea all round. But I'm interested, like with the Media Cubs, isn't it? Yeah, Media Cubs. Yeah. With Media Cubs, why is that so important for the young people? Like, what value does that give them, and how have you seen that sort of? How have you seen the business actually having a real impact with them?
It started really for me because my youngest son, who's a creative little soul, and he it was getting to a stage where it was English lessons where we were all about whether you could write on a line, whether you had neat handwriting, whether you could put the I's, dot your I's and cross your T's, and all the creativity was being sapped out of everything. So that was my initial spur on to want to be able to bring creativity back into something in the classroom, and you know, really let them shine in how they can learn how to do different styles of writing. But as it developed, it became more and more about how actually what was happening was that, yes, they were getting better writing skills, but the confidence was like the massive thing for us in the classroom, showing that they can have any kind of opportunity, no matter where they're from, who they are, that we can really help them build that up with confidence, and all of the other stuff follows on from that. So we've had children who have been a part of Media Cubs who would be the kid who would sit in class, who would never put the hand up, always shied away from everything, because there's always somebody in your class like that, and then you've got the other person who will want to do everything. And we've managed to take them from being in that position to being stood up in front of everybody else and presenting their own TV show. So it's just really, the key to it was like tapping into what their passions were, because we all have them. So whether that was for them, it was Pokemon or politics, we just used one of those things to be able to let them shine.
So Kirsty makes the point about creativity and confidence building in the Media Cubs newsroom, but there's a much wider social mission that motivates us for that, and that is the fact that at the moment the people that consume the news in this country are not the same people who are making the news that we consume. So I think it's 51% of leading journalists in the UK are privately educated, which is a massively disproportionate amount of people. So we work in working class areas with disadvantaged kids because we want them to see that they can be news reporters. We need to tackle this imbalance. So we're trying to raise their career aspirations at quite an early age, albeit, but we have had quite a few of the Media Cubs reporters say they now want to become either news reporters or TV presenters as a result. So when you know that the unfairness still exists in wider society, it can sound a bit grand, but it makes us pretty angry, doesn't it, Kirsty? And that's a really good motivator.
It's a massive motivator. And, you know, I grew up wanting to be a journalist all my life. I'm from a long line of journalists in my family, and it's just I am that working class kid who was the first person in the family to go to university. Not having those opportunities wasn't easy. Totally different way to like how my dad would have entered journalism, when you just knew somebody. You had a go at it, and then you met coppers in the pub to be able to have a chat with them and get the best stories. And now it's like, it is that you have to go to university, you do have to have that route, and just to be told that you can do this and that it is okay to be where you're from and have these opportunities is really important to me. And they've already published some of them, so they already have been published reporters, and a few different stories. The latest one is just before lockdown they were giving out advice from the newsroom, so they were able to share that already, which is just fantastic. I mean, at their age, I would have absolutely loved to have already been a published journalist.
Yeah.
And we should make it clear it's 7 to 11-year-olds. So
Yeah.
we're working with teenagers here. You're 10 years old, and to be published in your local paper as a reporter is something to be proud of. And
they've just had some really inspirational moments. So we also took them to a conference which where it was all women in media, and to be perfectly honest, they showed us a thing or two, because there's so many different ways now that people are consuming the news, and TikTok is obviously the new phenomenon that is just everywhere for young people, and not something that I used as a journalist. I mean, when I was in the newsroom, Twitter was only just becoming a thing. So it's come a long way, and using that to consume news has just been fantastic for us to be able to tap into what they enjoy doing and how they would consume news. Being at stuff and being able to introduce them to people who are real life journalists and have those careers that they want to pursue has just been so inspirational for them. So after meeting those people, we've done sessions with them where we've asked what they want to do or what they believe or what they think, and it's just had such a massive impact on them. Like Grace said, they want to be news reporters, or they want to be camera women or men, and it's just really eye-opening to think that all it's taking is for us to go into a classroom and show them what they can do, for them to be able to have those opportunities presented to them, and then think, oh, actually, yeah, I can do this. And it's just so simple, really, to be able to present it to them in that way.
Do you think it's a failure in like the education system, in a sense, like they're not really presenting these opportunities? Because like you said, you went in there and just by showing them, they're sort of opened their eyes to so many more opportunities. Do you think it's the education system's fault?
I think it's really hard for the teachers because they're very much bounded by the rules of what they're being told they have to do in classrooms. Yeah. So in no way would I think that it's that, teachers are very passionate about what they do and are always trying to think of different fun new ways to do things, but they're also restricted by a curriculum that means that they have to present things in a certain way, in a certain time frame. So it doesn't necessarily always give them the freedom to think, how can I be more creative with this, or how is it going to boost X's confidence when I've got 36 other kids to try and work with. So it's a very difficult job, and we spend an hour with media clubs in the after school clubs, and my hats go off to teachers of what they do, for 6 hours plus a day. So I think, yes, in some ways the education system doesn't always necessarily present people with the opportunities that to show them that they have got opportunities in every area of their life, but teachers are doing the best they can with the system that they have.
Yeah, and I've been really impressed with how open-armed the schools are. They want us because they know they've not got the time or maybe the skills to be able to deliver these sorts of sessions themselves. I don't know if it's a geography thing, I don't know if it's like a generational thing, but I was just thinking back to when I was in primary school, and I'm from a rural market town, so automatically there are less sort of career ambitions or opportunities. But our trips out were to like the local DIY store or the pet shop. It wasn't like going to a women in media conference and to show you what you could be when you're older. So I think even just the case that the schools are embracing the opportunities that are out there is a bonus, and makes me think that maybe times have moved on in a positive way.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with the pet shop. I enjoyed it a lot at the time, but didn't do much for my career ambitions.
Well, I don't. Have you heard of the scheme, the Young Enterprise Scheme, at all?
No, I've not heard of that.
So it's like a business scheme where this organization, a charity, goes into schools and they teach people about business and sort of let them run their own business, which is something I took part in. But I think that was at age like 14, 15, and that was valuable. So I can only imagine, I can only imagine if I was sort of presented to these people at 7, 11, what could have happened for me and what I could have started from that age. So yeah, hats off to you both. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think careers education has always been something that needs a bit of improvement, I would say, in terms of how that's developed for teenagers. And at 15, you know, some of us know what we want to do all of our life, some of us don't. But if you've been instilled from the age of 7 as to know that actually you can do anything you want to, is the point, and it gives them the confidence to think about those different career opportunities, then that's a great start for them for when they get down that road at the age of 15, where you're presented with a checklist and you suddenly need to know what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that the confidence and communication skills that we do build in Media Cubs can be transferable to whatever career you have, particularly in the schools that we work with. They're not going to go on to be part of some sort of public speaking club or debating society, but those are the skills that are going to get you ahead in life. So hopefully, even if they don't choose the newsroom as their workplace, we'll have done them justice.
Well, you're talking about the helping out the 7-year-olds. How about the 70-year-olds and that sort of age group? If you don't mind talking about the work you do with those guys.
Oh, we love the 70-year-olds, don't we, Kirsty?
Oh, we love it. Yeah.
It's amazing. So that came about last year. We were asked to partner with local IOTKs in Greater Manchester to try and run a campaign to try and challenge these ageing stereotypes. And I know you will probably imagine for yourself that wrinkly old hands on the walking stick image, which seems to accompany most older people's stories, whether it's BBC News or Daily Mail or whatever it is. So we thought, okay, we'll give that a go, but instead of us running that campaign, we should have our target audience running that campaign. So we thought we'll recruit some reporters, give them the skills, give them the know-how, they can go out and do the news. We did think we were still going to have to do quite a lot of the work, didn't we, Kirsty? That there's going to be a lot of editing, a lot of hand-holding here. But my gosh, they just flew with it. So we've got 16 reporters from age 50 to about 80, I would say, from across Greater Manchester. And they now run and edit their own podcast. They've got their own news site called Talking About My Generation. We can't keep up with them, can we?
Honestly, no. Yeah, they're fantastic. And I've been another great newsroom to work with. Just I mean, storytelling is kind of my bread and butter. So hearing from them and what they've done and achieved in their lives is great. And having been in a newsroom where I have been that person who's published a story that's about an old person, and you're sourcing a photo and the only ones that come up are those old wrinkly hands, and it's not representative of the people that we've come across at all. So we really wanted to change that up. And the news agenda as a whole, really, like how many positive news stories do you see about people who were rocking later life? It's generally to do with how things are going wrong for older people or something negative, and that was really important to us, that we were showing, you know, the positive news of people being older and enjoying life.
I was just about to say that Captain Tom Moore has sort of changed things and helped us. And the most positive story we've heard about an older person in a very long time.
Yeah, you are right though. Like, it is mainly when old people sort of are presented on the news, it's always something like tragic or something sort of negative. It's like it's getting a bit boring now. So hopefully there's a little paradigm shift there, where hopefully you guys will help with that as well.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, when we turn that age, we don't think we're going to be confined to a floral armchair with our hands on a walking stick. You know, we've done stories recently.
Like a floral armchair.
Yeah, maybe you can. But even in lockdown, we've done stories about a 51-year-old who hosted a 90-minute concert for his neighbours who've social distanced but were enjoying his talents. And we've done a story about an 87-year-old boxer who ditched the walking sticks for boxing gloves and spars with someone half his age. So the stories are out there.
And just for it not to always be centred around age as well, it's just like, if you took the age out of the equation, these are just good news stories. Like, it doesn't have to be about somebody's age. It still has to be fit into a news agenda. and they all do. It's just that generally speaking, when you have them flagged up in regional newspapers, national newspapers, it would centre around somebody's age. And the positive ones that you saw of old were just about somebody reaching 100-year birthday and how they survived on jelly babies for all their life, which is a great news story. But it was always about their age rather than just being about their talents or about what they've achieved.
Mm-hmm. And although we love a social mission, I mean, it is at the heart of what we do. What excites me both about that and Media Cubs is I think they're real business opportunities. They're still in their infancy, but we now have a news platform which has a very defined target market. The silver pound is a real thing. These people have disposable income. So we're excited to get out lockdown really and develop like the advertising revenue and to make that into a real viable news platform. That's the bit that I get excited about. Kirsty gets excited about.
Which is why it works. Like, it works together, not apart.
So I guess it's needless to say that age isn't a barrier then. That's the big thing I'm getting from both of these stories here.
Absolutely. Like you said, whether you're 6 or 60, I mean, I think that we think we're pretty inclusive and see the potential in everybody, but there hasn't been a Media Cubs reporter or a Talking About My Generation reporter that hasn't surprised me with what they're able to do and the energy and motivation they've got to do it. So it's definitely educated me on that. But age is just a number. Whether you want to be a reporter or you want to set up your own business, you've just got to believe you can do it. And I am a real believer in role models. So you cannot be who you cannot see. And I think that's what we try to do with all our projects, just show people that look like you who are doing it so you can do it too.
Then how does Yellow Jigsaw fit into this puzzle, if you pardon the pun?
So we love a good pun. Fit as many as you like.
That's my only one. I'm sorry. Only one.
Yellow Jigsaw is sort of the umbrella social enterprise organisation. So that's the trading organisation, that's the organisation that gets the funding in, and then we're underneath it with our team of volunteers and freelancers, delivering the projects, delivering the client consultancy, chasing our tails basically.
It does feel like running 3 businesses at once at the moment. So because both of our projects have gone really well and we're building them up, it's Yellow Jigsaw, Talking About My Generation and Media Cubs feel like 3 separate businesses, but we're managing to juggle them all.
Just about. It's been, I'm sure Kirsty would agree when I say it's been the most challenging year of Yellow Jigsaw's life. By thinking that we could continue running a business while launching 2 projects that we see turning into businesses themselves, we completely underestimated that. But they're all unified in that mission to give skills and communication and voices and platforms to people that don't already have them. So there's an ongoing theme that brings them all together.
Yeah, and I think a lot of learning from us personally is growing as a business in terms of, I think Grace would agree, we both like to control things quite a lot, which is why we have freelancers, but we have branched out more with that, with the client side of work, so the Yellow Jigsaw side of the work, making sure we build our team there so we can put our, we can spread ourselves more evenly across the 3 different projects. So having a good team around you is really important to the growth as well.
Yeah, and learning to let go, because we cannot, between the 2 of us, live businesses. So we are really lucky to have that team of freelancers to help with the client consultancy work.
No, definitely, it's important. And I think another thing that is important, and I always say it to all my guests, to understand sort of where you are now, if we can rewind the clocks just a tiny bit and find out what you were both like when you were in school and what your grades were like and stuff like that, if you don't mind.
I was a massive geek.
Let's start with a positive one.
Yeah, I was a massive geek. So sort of an A student, which doesn't really equip you for running a business. I'm thinking, and sorry to use such a BS term, but outside the box. I knew how to revise, to pass exams, to write assignments, and to play by the rules in order to get good marks, which gave me confidence and obviously got me into uni, which was great. But I wasn't ready for the world of work in its uncertainty and its freedom and its, well, varying levels of flexibility, and being able to take my own initiative wasn't something that had ever been celebrated before or encouraged. So I had the grades, I had confidence in that sense, but I think I needed to partner with Kirsty to be able to see that I had the ability to be an entrepreneur, even though that's what I always wanted to be. I mean, I'd only really watched The Apprentice, and so Alan Sugar was my role model. I didn't have much. There are no entrepreneurs in my family, nothing like that. So it was sort of late into the journey where I thought I could actually achieve what I wanted to achieve.
So then, do you think that like uni and stuff like that, do you think is valuable? I always try and get this out of guests, see what their take on it is, because I don't know myself. I don't know whether it was a waste of time or whether it was worth it.
No, I don't think it was a waste of time, but not because I got a degree out of it, but because I was tested to try and stretch my mind and do independent research and mix with people that I never would have mixed with before. Being from a small rural town on the border of Wales, it was a massive culture shock, and it just opened my eyes to different ways of living and different people. And for that reason, I wouldn't ever say that uni was a waste of time, but the degree itself isn't going to guarantee you any sort of success. Yeah. I wanted a first class degree. I got one, but I knew that alone wasn't enough. So from the end of my first year, I was doing as many volunteer roles, student events manager, student fundraising coordinator, all this sort of stuff, work experience placements, because that is what's going to help you in your career.
Yeah.
But the disclaimer to all of that is, now I run a social enterprise, I wouldn't say that you actually need a degree or you need to go to uni. The most important thing, I think, is lived experience and having a network. So you just need to go out there and get stuff done.
Yeah.
So mine then, so on the other end of the spectrum, my school life, I'd never really enjoyed education, but I was always somebody who had their report card that said could do better. As it turned out, my grades ended up pretty good for the minimum amount of effort that I put into them. So, but I always knew what I wanted to do. I've always been somebody who enjoys being creative. I've always liked to voice my opinion on things. So after leaving school, I knew I had to go to university. I think that's the thing for me. I didn't feel like it was a choice, because I'd had work experience from the age of 15 in newsrooms, and every one of them was like, you can't come back until you've got a degree or you're on the path to doing your NCTJ. So it was just a requirement for me. And despite not enjoying being in the classroom that much, I was quite driven in what I wanted to do. So I made sure that happened. And like Grace, really, it wasn't the degree, although I obviously learned a lot of skills while on the course. It was going and continuing to get work placements and making sure that I was the person who was there first to be able to get the job that I wanted at the end of uni that was important. I actually didn't enjoy the university experience at all from the other side of things, missing being at home and having a core group of friends that you were back at home with. But that probably had its advantages for me, that it meant that I put a lot of my energy into doing what you actually meant to do when you're at university. So that worked out well. And actually, it was in my third year that I got work experience at the MEN Media, which they managed to even use. And that's where I got my first job. So I'd already got a job there before I'd left university. So that was the end goal, really. But the same as Grace, if I could have done the journey into journalism that my dad had done when, leaving school at the age of 16 and just going and working alongside somebody as a junior reporter and learning all those skills on the job, 100% I would have gone for that option, because I've always been somebody who's got a strong work ethic and just wanted to get stuck into it. So no, I don't think you should have to go to university, but unfortunately for certain jobs you do to get into those roles. But again, having said that, in journalism, that's also changing. Like, people are making their own rules on what journalism is in terms of how people consume it and what they set up. So unless you're going into the traditional side of media in terms of working for a national or regional newspaper, a lot of people aren't going down those traditional routes anymore, so they wouldn't need a degree for that. And I agree wholeheartedly with Grace that it's like, now we're in the social enterprise world, that it shouldn't have to be a requirement, but unfortunately is for some things.
Well, that seems to be like the overall consensus, that the degree is more of like a signpost, but really you need that real experience behind you as well to sort of make that degree worthwhile. And also a lot of people say, much like you sort of touched upon, both of you there, it depends on what path you want to go down and what you're actually going to use that degree for, and if you're going to use it at all.
Yeah, I think a lot of young people may be discouraged by parents or may feel uncertain about going to uni if they're not absolutely dead set on what their career is. But I would actually argue that that's more of a reason to go, because then you've got opportunities to try lots of different things. If you really make the most of that time at uni, you can experiment with different work placements and volunteering opportunities, and it'll help you to decide, rather than maybe, which is what I almost did, getting trapped in a retail management scheme and becoming a store manager at M&S. I mean, that was going to be my plan B.
Yeah.
Not going to lie, the debt at the time isn't what it is now, but it terrified me, and that majorly put me off wanting to go to uni. But thankfully I was in Magaluf or something when the M&S retail interview was on, so that was great. I missed it and I had to go to uni.
Weirdly enough, Grace, I don't know if we've ever shared this story, but I also got onto an M&S programme just before I got the job on the newspaper, so we could have both been on very different paths right now.
Oh, really? Maybe we still would have met at M&S.
Well, I guess that's where the importance of media clubs come in, because if you would have had an organisation like media clubs at an early age, you would have tapped into your passion back then. You would have knew where you wanted to go, and you could have crafted everything around that, made every single move dedicated to getting you to a certain point.
Absolutely, yeah. Opportunities and role models for young people are so important, and you can't assume that they have them, because they don't. And yes, statutory education is really important, but those other bits around it is what is going to make a well-rounded and happy individual who has a career that they enjoy. And I feel for a lot of people that don't have that and can go their whole lives just doing a job that they don't really enjoy.
Yeah, that's what scared me the most when I was at uni and stuff, thinking, oh my god, say if I do end up in a job that I absolutely hate, like what do I do? Where do I go from there? But I think the experience really saved me, getting some experience. And even if it's something I hated, just finding out that I hated it was enough. That was valuable enough, and then moving on to the next thing.
Absolutely.
To know that you can eliminate things is always something valuable. And do you know, I value working in the cafes that I did when I was at university to like subsidise yourself while you're there, just as valuable as the degree, because it was just part of like that confidence building and giving you the, knowing that you can just go out there and do something.
Exactly. I think it's all very valuable. Just get out there, see what happens. Now, we seem to be giving like some good advice for the entrepreneurs out there and the young people, but can I try and get you both to sort of, in one line, one sentence, try and summarize one bit of advice for those young entrepreneurs out there, if you can?
Can I do two?
Yeah.
You always want more.
Negotiating. One is sort of a mission, I guess, and a belief that drives what we do at Yellow Jigsaw, but it's ability is nothing without opportunity. So you may think you've got the ability, you may see the ability in other people, but if you don't provide your opportunities and get out there and grab the opportunities, then it doesn't matter, you're not going to succeed. So that's a really important mantra that we work by: grab the opportunities or provide them for yourselves and others. But the other thing, which is more of a lesson I've learned since we've developed Yellow Jigsaw, is do not be afraid to ask people in a similar business to you for advice. How did they do it? What went wrong? What pitfalls should I look out for? And I say this to quite a few people and they think, oh, would they talk to me? I might be a potential competitor, but I've gone out of my way to hunt people down who I think, you're doing it the way we want to do it. How are you doing it? And so far, nobody's turned around and said they won't speak to me. And an hour's conversation with someone like that, who's willing to share with you the mistakes they've made through the years will save you so much heartache and save you from costly mistakes that you can make yourself. So just go out, find someone who's doing what you're doing and just ask them for advice and just take it all and run with it.
I love that. Kirsty, how about yours?
One that I always grew up on, that my dad always used to like to impart on me, was the harder you work, the luckier you seem to get. So I just think what you get out of something is how much you put into it. So that's really important. So I've got more than one as well, though. So, but I also think that having the attitude where you think, just have a go, just give it a go. And if it doesn't work, then change the direction that you're in and try something else, because I don't think we would be where we were if we didn't just think, right, well, that didn't work, so we won't do that, or that worked really well, so let's keep doing that. And just making sure that you're not afraid of giving something a go, because I think that's a real entrepreneurial spirit.
Definitely, I love that. I can't wait to get that out into the world, and I think lots of people will be inspired by that. So thank you very much. Very precise. I love that. Last couple questions. If you're at where you are now, imagine we're on a timeline. You're at where you are now. In the future, where do you see yourself going? Like what's next for both of you individually?
I'm hoping to just be able to leave my bedroom at some point, is where I would like to go first. Get out of lockdown.
Immediate future would be freedom. Then after that, obviously we've spoken pretty passionately about Media Cubs and talking about my generation. There are second and third babies, I would say. So in the long term, I would love to see Media Cubs scaled up as a licensed model. So we've got Media Cubs leaders across the UK, inspiring mini reporters everywhere. And for talking about my generation to be a fully fledged news platform run by our over 50s and being made viable by being an advertising platform. So that's what's keeping us motivated in lockdown. And we're doing all we can at the moment to get to that point, aren't we?
Yeah, what she said.
Nice. And then when it's all said and done, you completed your mission. Bit of a tough one, but what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh,
well, I can't see it ever being said and done, to be honest. That's our problem. I'll do this and then we'll think, oh, that's an opportunity, let's go ahead and do that. So if and when we ever did finish with these sorts of projects, I hope that our legacy is we have done something to tackle some of those stats that I mentioned earlier, that the world is a more fair and just place, and that newsrooms are more balanced and things are fairer for people. And it doesn't matter what your background is, if you've got the ability, then you'll have the opportunity to succeed, whether you're 6 or 60 and everything in between.
Yeah, diversifying the media would be up there for me as like a legacy one as well. And I'm all about all the individual stories. I love knowing that I've changed, Billy's dreams, or Joan is now happy to do this. It's like all those little individual things for me that always resonate with me feeling that I've done something good. So always knowing how people have gone on to do something individually is really important.
That's a good point. We're quite lucky that everything we do automatically has some sort of legacy, because we're helping people create their stories and then we publish them. So their legacy is there for everyone to see.
No, great. It sounds very practical. I wish you all the best of luck. Final thing, the floor is yours. If there's anything you think we missed that you want to cover, or anywhere you want people to go, or things you want people to do, please feel free to say now.
Shall I go for it, Kirsty?
Go for it.
So first and foremost, the Media Cubs pop-up TV studio and newsroom, we want it in a primary school near you. So visit mediacubs.co.uk to see how we can make that happen. And then if you are over 50, if you are bored of the tired, wrinkly hands on the walking stick image, then get some refreshing news content at talkingaboutmygeneration.co.uk.
Anything you'd like to add?
That's it. Yeah, smashed it.
Perfect. Well, it's been very valuable having you on. You've dropped some really good bombs of wisdom. So thank you very much, both of you, for that. I wish you all the best of luck. And yeah, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
That's right. My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Cheers. See ya.
If only they knew the hub for young business minds.